My name is Trisha Fulton, and today I'm interviewing Charity from Body Intelligence, who's going to tell us a bit about what she does and who she helps. We have a list of questions here, and if there's anything we haven't covered in this video today, feel free to leave a comment below and Charity will respond to you. Hi, Charity. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Trisha.
So nice to have you. Now, I've been very lucky to know you for a few years now, and we found each other online, and I've actually used your services in Body Intelligence, and I've really benefited a lot from that. So it's a real pleasure to do this interview with you and be able to share what you do and what you know with other people as well. I just want to ask you to give a little bit of introduction to who you are and what you do so people can understand and hear from you as well.
Hey, thank you, Trisha. So I have been working with people in this line of work for, it's actually been about 25 years now. And it started just as a kind of a desperation on my part, honestly. And it's just grown from there. So I have 4 children, and I started right at the beginning, before we even had children, because I was in desperation point, and it's just grown from there. I actually have my degree in teaching elementary education, which I did for a few years, and I loved it, but I definitely have found what I love to do. And I love working with people. I work with people of all ages. However, mostly I work with women. But women who have children soon bring their children to me also. And I just love what I do, Trisha. It changes people's lives. And when you see the difference in them, from one session to the next, and it just makes my heart happy. Like I honestly get kind of emotional about it sometimes, because it's such a good thing, and it's good to help other people.
I know during the time that we worked together, Charity, it was really hard to find the words to describe to people what it exactly is that you do. And it's it's a form of intelligence that is beyond normal therapy that people would go to a doctor or a counselor for. And I guess you could say it's a lot more holistic and the approach is different. And through the work that we did together, the term body intelligence was coined, and I'd just like you to share with us how this started. I remember a story you told me, if you're okay to share the story. In that moment of desperation when your mum was unwell and you were looking for answers, you went to all the doctors, you went to all the therapists, you went everywhere trying to find an answer to help your mum, and then you found this answer, and then it just evolved from there. Would you be okay to share that story about
Sure,
how this all got started?
sure. So I did not grow up with any of this type of work. And quite honestly, I was pretty healthy as a child. However, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 10. And then she survived. And then years later, it came back, and she had a lot of complications, and she had a horrible cough. And anyway, a neighbor moved in, and she just said to my mom, you really should try to go to my mother. And she kind of explained it. And when my mom called me on the phone and told me what she did, I honestly thought she was crazy. I'm like, Mom, we'd only been to the doctors. But she helped her with little things, and she went to the root of the issue. And so fast forward a couple years, my mom, the lady helped her with her cough. And then once I got married, I had a hard time having children. We would have miscarriage after miscarriage. And so I went to the same practitioner, and she just said, well, you've got a virus of some type that's affecting your body, and told me what it was, gave me the stuff to take. And lo and behold, I went to my OB because I was kind of clueless, or I now I know what I was doing. I was protecting myself from the pain that I'd already felt. And she said, well, congratulations, you're 18 weeks along. Everything's great. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this. So after I had my kids, I kind of used this lady here and there. And then we had a friend who went
She
to
wasn't a
some,
doctor though, was she? Or
no,
a
she was
therapist?
not.
She did something quite different. It would be like an alternative
Yes,
form of
she did alternative healing.
yeah.
So she would use neuromuscular feedback and then she would give you different herbs or homeopathics to take, which was totally not what I grew up with. Like it was the most foreign thing to me. And so as I had kids, when they would get sick, I would use her. And then we had a friend who actually went to a different type of schooling, went to him for years. And he's like, Trudy, you already kind of do some of this stuff. Because I was learning as I was going, just with my kids when they get a cold or a stomach ache. And so he finally said, you really need to go try like learning this. And so I did. I went to school and I do a couple of different types of things. And so it just kind of has morphed from there. And now I've been seeing clients for about 15 years.
Oh,
Before that
fantastic.
was just kind of helping friends and family here and there. So
So tell us about body intelligence and what does it mean to you? This is the modality that you practice and this is how you
yes,
help people.
yes.
Talk us through
So,
it.
the body is an amazing thing and we know that. We wake up and we go about our day and our body just does its thing, right? Until something comes in and changes or causes things to stop working in the way it should be working. So for example, let's say, everybody eats during the day and your digestion is fine. And then all of a sudden you go through a very stressful, traumatic time. And suddenly like your digestion is just not the same. Well, medically, we go to the doctor, get on some medication and see if that works. We just kind of try different things, but it's really just like, what would we
So,
say? One size
so
fits all?
the root cause is not necessarily something that's
No,
treated by medication. The root
right.
cause is deeper than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we go and I mean, medical, I love it. It saves our lives. It has a lot of benefits and a lot of technology. I'm all for that. However, we're more complicated than just the physical. We really have to look at the body and the mind and the spirit. And that's what body intelligence does, is it incorporates all three of those aspects. So, I may have a client who comes, say, with a pain in their neck, and they've been to the chiropractor, they've been to neurosurgeons, they've been to all of these people, and there's not anything really physically wrong with their body. It's more of an emotional root or, say, a belief system. It's on a different level. So when we're able to look at those things and address those and bring a new awareness to the body, then the body can shift and see things from a different perspective. And then some of my clients say it just seems that like magic, like my symptoms are gone.
It's like a reset.
It is, because as we bring in that new awareness, our body is able to go back to the natural blueprint that it has. It doesn't have all those emotions and belief systems that are basically blocking the body from, just working like it should, functioning like it should.
So, for those that are listening to this video, I think there's something we need to make really clear. There are two things at play here. One is traditional scientific Western-based medicine, which is used day to day for all sorts of treatments, and it's still an essential service. There's nothing not saying that that shouldn't be done. And then you have the second side of the equation, which is the body's intelligence. The body knows what it needs to heal itself. In addition to using that medical scientific knowledge and basis, which provides you the foundational strength for getting the right treatment, getting the right nutrition, the right medication, whatever it's needed to balance things. The emotional balance and the internal balance inside is something that needs to be reset, I guess, is the best way I can describe from what I've learned from you, is resetting your body intelligence where it may have been on the wrong path or the wires may have been broken, and then just mending it and resetting it so that you can at least establish that healthy connection on the inside. And that's what you work with. It's a subconscious level, where a
Yes,
medical is the conscious level.
yes,
Medical is going to your doctor because you choose,
yes,
and body intelligence is the subconscious, which you don't know that is even there.
right. And I would say, Trisha, most of my clients, when they come to me at the beginning, come in a desperation state, usually for something physical symptom of some kind. Of course, people are really stressed and anxious and, depressed. So they come for those physical symptoms that they're feeling. And then during the session, it's so much more than that. And it's almost as like they already knew it was there, it was within,
They
but
just didn't connect it.
they did
They
not
didn't
connect
realize
it.
that emotional was creating that physical pain.
Yep. And, subconscious is on a deeper level. It's underneath, it's not on the surface. And so a lot of it is, it's like, oh, yeah, that did happen to me. Or, yeah, I do remember that. Or, well, yeah, during that time, this is what was going on. And I haven't felt well since then. So it's a deeper level that brings healing to like the surface. And like you said, it really is a resetting aspect for the body and the mind.
It's a lot of it, I think, from what I've experienced, helps so much on a mental health basis as well, mental and emotional health, which supports physical health.
Yes.
If you have good emotional, mental, spiritual, and gut health, then that it supports good physical health. And I think a lot of the time from when we've spoken, some of the stories that you've shared, um, clients, like you said, have come to you with a physical ailment, whether it's a sore foot, a sore shoulder, a constant headache, and it's that physical body's trapped in that frozen state of fight or flight. But
Yes.
then they haven't resolved the emotional and the mental, which is um, just sort of sitting like a shadow on your shoulder.
Yes. Well, and for example, a lot of older people have knee replacements, and the knee is a lot of a fear-based emotion. So, they have the knee replacement done, but your physical body's on the lowest level. Emotions above that, mental body, consciousness is at the top. So until you shift these higher things, you're just going to return back to the physical aspect. That's why
Yeah.
that's why people don't truly get better, because they're not getting to the emotional root. They're not
They're
getting
not
to the
focusing
belief
on the right.
systems that are there.
Mm.
Yeah. You really have to address all of it, or you're only focusing on the body, the physical
Yes.
aspect. You're not focusing on the mind, the mental, or the spirit part.
So, in your work, you've worked a lot with people who own companies, founders. You've worked with entrepreneurs, private individuals, mums, dads, aunties, uncles, children. You've worked with a whole range of people. And I think this video, we're going to provide this to some people in the corporate environment. Could you just perhaps provide two examples of how this type of body intelligence system can help a leader, for example, someone who's in charge of an organization who may be struggling on a personal level? Or the second one would be if you have a board of managers all together and there's a bit of a funky dynamic going on, how this could help those two types of
Okay.
people.
All right. Okay. So, as far as there was a business owner who I was working with, and she had extreme shoulder pain. And so she came to me. All of my work has just been by referral based. Like, I have not had to market. That's just how I've built my business. Because, I mean, and you can probably say this, Trisha, it's kind of hard to explain, like you said. It's kind of hard to
Yeah.
explain. I feel different, but I don't. And so most people come to me. So I'm coming just because my friend told me to come, or my boss told me to come, or a coworker told me to come. And so they come not really knowing what to expect. And so I go through the questionnaire, ask them what's going on. And she's like, well, I've had this shoulder pain for 2 years. And I could tell she was really skeptical. I said, oh, really? Okay. So I just write it down and we go through the session. And shoulders are very much about responsibility, bearing burdens, feeling overloaded, That's the emotional aspect, because the body, every single thing in the body has an emotional aspect. If you go into Chinese medicine, you hear a lot about the 5 elements: fire, earth, metal, water, wood. Each one of those have an emotion that goes with it, and then they govern certain body parts or organs. So your whole body is like that. And anyway, so we did the session, and of course it was on a personal level, but it went right to her business. And the responsibility she felt was mirrored both in the responsibility she was feeling at home of carrying the load and being overburdened, and being the business owner and all of the responsibility. And so we did her session, and typically, not always, but typically in a session, I will do an evaluation and have them, do movement. So you can kind of see where your range of motion is. And she told me after, she's like, Terry, I'm going to be honest. Like, I was like, there is no way I'm not going to have pain. And she lifted her arm like this, and it just kept going, and her eyes just kept getting bigger. And when you shift the body's attention to a new way, like, it happens instantly. And I would say, Trisha, that's probably the most shocking thing for most of my clients, especially, business owners and entrepreneurs, corporate, like, they're driven people. They want their stuff taken care of, and they do a lot of work on themselves, but they still have these nagging things. And I remember one of my clients, she said, this is like the fast-paced, like, racehorse. Like, this is not just on your leisure. Let's slowly get through your stuff. She's like, it's a process because we have things to work on, but she's like, it really is on the fast track to success. And I love that story of the business owner with the shoulder, because sometimes it's hard when we're working on a mental and emotional, and you can attest to this, Trisha, you feel different, but you don't really, it's not as distinct as if you have a migraine and it's gone, or all of a sudden you have some range of motion in your shoulder. But it's always so amazing to me as a practitioner to see the change, but also I'm shocked sometimes at the power of the body. It's like, yeah, you bring in awareness, and it shifts just like that. But when you're dealing on an energetic level, like, that's what it does. It just shifts. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out process.
And for those leaders, there's a lot of, I think, in society and family and the workplace, there's a lot of expectation that you got your shit together. You're just going to do it. You're like a robot. You're just going to go out there and deliver. You're going to be the person they want to see. You're going to act the right way. You're going to always say the right thing.
Yeah.
But as a leader, you're conflicted, because what you really believe and what you have to say may not be the same. But being able to just get complete clarity, I think that's one of the things I've learned from working with you as a leader myself in places that I've worked at. It just takes away all those gray, fuzzy areas, takes away the self-doubt, takes away the worry, and it's really clear cut. And you can move forward with confidence. I think for
Yes.
a leader, that's a really good thing. But what I've also seen, what you've worked on, is when you're in a team dynamic and things are a little bit funky, things are not necessarily great, at the table, sitting around in the board table, everyone's polite, everyone's courteous, but there's that underlying energy that's a bad vibe. And you've been able to work with people in small groups and larger groups. I know that some of the workshops you've done with some of these leaders has been really interesting. You recently did one in Utah. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and what you learned from it?
Yes.
And how they benefited?
Yeah. So I will say, when I work with groups of people, they're always a little bit amazed at, because when you're working one-on-one, that's one thing. But when you're in a group of people, it's like, okay, well, how's this going to work? But when we're in a group, Trisha, we have a lot of dynamics going on. Like, you have your own personal makeup, you have your own personality, the person next to you does, and we all have those qualities and characteristics. That's what builds a team. That's what helps us to move forward quickly. However, we have this thing called dissonant energy.
Yeah.
Or we have a cohesive, congruent energy. And so when you're working in a team dynamic, if there's things that are not meshing, you can feel that, and it really blocks your progress. Like it's you can feel almost like the stagnation. It's like, yeah, we just don't get things done like we should, or like our numbers aren't where they should be. But when each individual member, so there's two aspects of this, okay? When each individual member is able to work on themselves or have sessions personally, then they bring a better person to the group. So actually, I work in two different ways with groups of people, either like all in a group dynamic or individual people in the group. Does that make sense?
Totally,
So when you
totally.
do the individual session and then they come back to the group, then they're bringing their best energy. They're in the best place that they can be to contribute to the group. Compared to when you're in a group, you're working more on the whole group dynamic and how that meshes together. And it's helping. I mean, so like let's say you're in the grocery store and you walk past someone and you can almost feel like their vibe or it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't like that. So we feel that in different things, but when you're in a group and you're feeling that, especially when you're working together and your coworkers, that's not a healthy way to function in the workplace. And it really does affect everyone.
If I was in a corporate office now and I was telling someone about what you're doing, um, is it possible that we could get a better outcome in an afternoon with, in that group session, or would it be something that we would need to do over a few weeks, multiple sessions to get a result?
You can get a result just in one day. It just depends on like what depth you want to go into.
Yeah.
So do you want to cover different areas, or do you want to just focus on one overall thing? So it kind of depends, because as you work just as an individual, you know, it, I said it's quick, but we still have layers that we have to go through. We live every day. We experience emotions. We have these subconscious beliefs about ourselves. Those are all within each of us as an individual. So we work on layers within ourselves. So it goes the same way into a corporate office. Like we can just focus on one thing, or we can focus on little things. One, like say we are working on stress management one day, the next day we could be more on performance. The other day it could be limiting beliefs. So it just kind of depends on what you want. I will say in the way that I work, you have to address stress at the very, very beginning.
So that's
And
the first thing that a
yes,
corporate team should be looking at before they
yep,
look at improving productivity, before
yep,
they look at improving dynamics. They need to address the root cause of the stress.
yes. And the stress isn't going to go away,
Mm.
but it's helping you to become more stress resilient. It's helping you to not be as reactive to the stress. It's teaching them how to use the stress. Not all stress is bad. Stress gets a really bad rap, and
Yeah.
it does affect us, but there are benefits to stress. Like it helps us to move to a different, move through things. But if you're stuck in stress, your bandwidth, your ability to focus, your ability to perform is not as high as it could be. And your body in that state is not able to heal and to let go of things. So regardless of whether you do like a day or multiple days, like I always start at the same place, because you have to really get the body and the mind in the right place to be able to move forward and go into a different direction.
And I know from when we've spoken about motivating the masses and looking at large groups in town halls and presenting, that your method to doing so is more around education and awareness and teaching in that way. Could you talk a little bit about if you were asked to go and present tomorrow at a large corporate event, a town hall, would the stress reset and that type of topic be something you would present, or would you customize it to what the client wants?
I generally ask if they want something customized. But even in that customization, I'm still going to cover stress at the beginning.
Yeah.
And this
It's
is
core.
why, Trisha, like it is a core thing. Like if our nervous system is dysregulated, we're not going to function optimally. So but I can make it big or small. Like it can be a condensed version or it can be a more detailed version, depending on what the needs are. For example, the day I had a school principal call me, and she just said, Terry, like our faculty is so stressed on all levels. And I mean, she's talking in school, at home, with their own families, with their own personal lives. Like she went through probably for 5 minutes about all these different stresses. And I mean, we all need help. Like we live in a stressed society. So you can do, and I would say this, Trisha, like I have a method, it's called the mountain method. So I teach everybody that method because it's something that you can use. You can teach your kids to use. You can teach your friend to use. You can teach coworkers. So as a business owner, if you incorporate just that one thing and I mean, make it mandatory for your employees to do it
as part of like induction and onboarding,
right.
And
yes,
even like quarterly meetings, like have a
right.
little
And
event.
even before every day, it's mandatory. Before you get in to check your emails or start, you need to do this little technique, and it resets the nervous system. It helps the vagus nerve. It helps breathing. All those little things that you're hearing everywhere. And I don't know, Trisha, you know that I'm not a boastful person. However, I will say, you can hear about, oh, mindset is the answer, or breathing is the answer, or your vagal tone has to be this. Like, body intelligence incorporates all of that.
Yeah.
Like
it's the
really,
house. It's like the
really
house, isn't it?
Yes.
The house. Yeah.
Yes. And I had another practitioner who practices something else. She said to me, she said, your work definitely goes much more to the core, where the rest is kind of just on the surface and dabbles a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
which kind of leads us to my next question. It's optimal timing and industry trends and challenges. So I think what you were just mentioning there, that a lot of the other work is just touching the surface only ever so gently, but it's not going down deep. What are you seeing as a practitioner in body intelligence that's out there in the industry that people are sort of being fed or receiving as information? That's, what's the trend out there? Is it just to do 10 meditations and you'll be fine? Is it sign up to this magical mystical course and you'll be okay? Like, what are people seeing, and what's the trend?
So two things. One thing is mindset. It's all about mindset. And mindset is a big thing. I mean, it's huge. Patricia, you have to be aware of where your thoughts are at before you can be in a good mindset. And that goes into the conscious and the subconscious. Consciously, we think we know what we're doing, but the conscious mind is only, now they're saying it's only seriously like 2% of our thinking.
Wow.
The rest of it is 98%. And if you follow Bruce Lipton or want to look him up, he's phenomenal. He's a doctor, and he really talks a lot about subconscious and conscious. But they're finding, and he says that the subconscious mind works at 40 million bits per second. Now, that's remember, incredible.
That's driving the car.
Yes.
That's what's driving
underneath. Yep. It drives our behavior. It drives our day, but it's under the surface. We're not aware of what we're thinking. Do this next morning, tomorrow morning, wake up, get in the shower, pay attention to where your thoughts are. I guarantee you'll be amazed. Like, what am I doing? How did I get from this thought to this thought to this thought? Because we're driving to and from work. We think we're like thinking, but we're just not even aware of where we're at because we do it out of a habit. When we're in those places, that's where the subconscious mind is going. That's when those limiting beliefs, the things that are in the back of our mind, are totally running the show. So we're saying, oh, yep, I want to be successful, or I want to break this habit. And yet we're still running the same programming.
The old
We have
programming.
to update the programming
You have to
because our
reset.
conscious mind only works at 40 bits per second. So Trisha, when I say, oh, I'm going to be happy today, or, oh, I'm going to accomplish all these things on my to-do list, and then we don't get it done because it's on a conscious mind, on a conscious level. So mindset really is a broken strategy, and yet people push it all the time. It drives me crazy. Now, I'm not talking about, like, my mom was a firm believer. I'm a pretty happy person, you know, but my mom was always like, you have a choice. You can either be ornery and miserable and you're still going to do your stuff, or you can be happy about it and enjoy your day. So, like, I think we choose that way. But this is on a deeper level, you know, our emotions control our thoughts, and then our thoughts control our behavior, and that becomes our personality. Like, it's, if you feel really, really stuck in certain aspects, you're not going to overcome them just with a mindset, a change in your mindset, or a certain meditation. Right.
Yeah.
So try this too. Like, try to meditate. And I am horrible at meditating. I have my own little form of, like, trying to go through my day, focusing, those kind of things. But my brain is like, here, it's there, it's like, it's everywhere. And, like, yes, meditation works. In fact, I have people listen to meditations as they're going to sleep, because you're going down into that theta state, you know, so you can listen to those as you're going to sleep, and it will help to rewire your brain. But you really have to be in a good place and able to focus. So I would say those two things probably, you know, and the whole manifestation thing, definitely what we focus on more expands. I think that is really the key route to manifestation. But you're not going to just go to some practitioner and have them do some hokey pokey and your life's going to be magical. Like, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, I think, in the industry, right? There's a lot of, you know, buy this $7 lead magnet, or, you know, sign up to this $2,000, $5,000, or $10,000 course and experience manifestation and attract your goddess, like, you know, whatever it is that they're selling. But the reality is, to change, you need to understand both your subconscious and your consciousness, and how the mind, body, and spirit has to support the physical, and the reset. Really, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yes. Well, and back to, I didn't finish. So subconscious is 40 million bits per second. Your conscious mind is only at 40 bits per second. Like, it's not even comparable.
You can't even compare it.
No, you can't. You know, and also, Trisha, on, you know, mindset, I think, can add to this, you know, because I sometimes give clients like an assignment. Okay, so I want you to be more mindful during the week of this, or become more aware of your thoughts, or, you know, those kind of things. But it's not going to change everything. It's more bringing an awareness to them. Does that make sense?
That's a really good point.
We are so unaware. We just run around like a bunch of stinking chickens with our heads cut off because we're all stressed out. We all have too many things to do. We're all pushing burnout. And, like, you can't balance that many plates. You know, the other thing too, I would say, is when people first come, they'll say, so how many sessions is this going to take? And I'm like, well, depends on what you want to do, you know, but the real reality is, we live life. And every day we have things that come up, things that trigger things from childhood, environmental factors that are stressing us that we're not really aware of, you know. So it is the fast track, but it is a process, you know. Especially I have a few things in my life that have been really, really, really hard. And sometimes when I'm getting work done, it's like, oh my gosh, like, again. But it's a different layer. It's all bound together, but it's tightly woven. And so working through those things does take time. But I will tell you this, like, it changes your life. So I had a newer client recently, And she came back for her, I don't know, she's probably on like her fifth session, I would say. And I just said, so how are things going? And she's like, great. And she said, I was talking to my friend who lives in another state, and she must have been FaceTiming because she said the friend said to her, you just look different. What are you doing? She's like, I can't believe how happy you look. Now she's still working through things. She had a really hard childhood. She has a lot of hard things right now. But her demeanor, where she's at, she's in a better place, which then affects all the people that she associates with, her family, her friends, her coworkers, everyone.
So people are
So,
seeing both the emotional, the physical
yes,
change, and the is it sociological, like the brain, like how they're presenting themselves
yes.
and their body language.
Well, and Trisha, and think about it, it, and this is what I love. Like, and I hadn't really thought about this until I don't even remember who told me or where this concept came up, but you know, and really it just makes sense. Like, I interact with how many people in a day? So, for example, today I went to the city. I live in a very rural place. I went to the city and I come out of Costco and I'm putting my groceries in the car, and this lady's next to me. And she just looks at me. And I said, hi, how are you? And so then she had a conversation with me, a little conversation. And very pleasant lady. And then she said, you have a nice day. So, I mean, there's that interaction, but then who knows what that did for her to go home or to work or to whoever. So we have those interactions, but when we work on our inner stuff, on what's really going on inside of us, and we're changing and we're in a better place, then naturally that affects everyone around us, and then they become in a better place. Because have you ever tried to be like really ornery around somebody who's happy? Like, it doesn't work.
Yes.
So, as those things change, then the people around you change. And one thing that did years ago, our family was in a really awful car accident with a semi truck, and my kids were quite little. My oldest was probably 12. My youngest would have been probably about 2. And so I, of course, was worried about their mental well-being. And I mean, it's a miracle we all walked away with very, very minor injuries.
Mm.
And I remember calling up to the mental health counselor, the psychologist, and I told the receptionist, and I said, I need to get all of my children in tomorrow. And she's like, well, what's going on? So I told her, and she says, well, I'm sorry, but that is not how he works. You will need to come in first, you as the mother. He will talk to you, work through your stuff, then he will see your children. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, I just need to make sure that my kids are taken care of. Then I'll be okay. And she's like, no, that's not how it works. She said, you are at the core. Like, you are the mother. You are the thermostat of the home. So as you heal and as you get in a better place, your kids they will be okay. If they still have issues, then we can bring them in. And they really only had a couple of sessions after that. Patricia, like, that applies to everything. You as the business owner, you as the team leader, like, working on you and then helping your people underneath you, or the same thing. You work on them and then their personal lives change, all for the better. And I think I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she said, Terry, she said, I don't really know how you can separate. You can't just focus on work stress, because the world in the state it's in is just in a stress state. You can't, it's just like stress is the overall thing, but then we all have our personal lives, our health stress, our mental well-being, our family, then we have our work. Like, you can't separate it out. And you really can't, Trisha, because we're an individual.
We're
And then
human,
we have all these roles.
and we're just, we're human. At the end of the day, we're human in human form with
Yes.
the ability to heal ourselves and to get that. How would you describe I know you've talked a lot about how you can help people, but what would be, if you're meeting a new client and they say, well, what's different to you to a doctor, or what's different, what would set you apart from other practitioners who may offer a service that helps people feel better, or whether it's a doctor or a therapist, how would you position yourself differently to them?
I would say the biggest thing is we're going right to the individual and to the root cause for them.
Yeah.
You know, so let's take, for example, I have
It's
three
not a
siblings.
band-aid. It's not a
No,
band-aid
no,
solution.
it's not a band-aid. You've got to go to the core. But we all have our different perspective. You know, I have three siblings. My mother did end up passing away years later. But our perception is all different of that. We
Mm.
all have different aspects. And so to just do a blanket for everyone, a one size fits all, does not work. And I really think that's why there's a huge disconnect. There's a huge gap in people not being served. And it really frustrates me because you really need to look at the individual and their personal circumstances and look at it in that way. Just addressing the physical is not going to cut it.
Exactly. And just medicating is not going to be the answer
Mm-mm.
either. I know from my own personal experience, when I met Charity and then I engaged her services, I was in a pretty poor place mentally, as I was dealing with some online issues with stalking and bullying, and it was just really hard, and that put my happy nature, happy-go-lucky nature, into quite a dark place of being really afraid and really scared, and not being comfortable to talk, which caused me neck pain, back pain, sleeping problems, major digestion pain. My stomach looked like people used to say to me as I went to the shop, "Oh, when are you expecting a baby?" And I said, "What do you mean? I'm not pregnant." And I wasn't pregnant. It's just all the pain and the energy was bundling up in my stomach. And I was starting to see a lot of physical physical ailments. You could physically see them, you could feel them, because I was definitely putting off a vibe that, of fear and anger and all sorts of things. And I know working with you, it really is like pressing this button. It's a reset, and it's not like you feel a wave come over you. It's just there's an energetic shift that happens that's so fast, faster than the speed of light, that opens your mind, and you see things that really should have been obvious but were in your subconscious and not your conscious obvious. It was a subconscious obvious. And you were able to help me improve from a point where I was really, really struggling, and I completely stopped my online business for several years until I came back on again. And now, where I would never be seen on video, I'm on video. I have a really good YouTube channel, and I speak to a lot of people all the time without any fear. So that was because of the help I received from you. And there's been lots of good things that I've also learned how to do for myself. But now I can fit into my old clothes again. So the physical part has improved. My sleeping, I sleep like a baby now. I don't have any of the worries. And every time we work together, I'm in Australia, you're in the US. I've not met you in person. It's all been through Zoom. So we don't even have to be in the same room. But
No.
the healing occurs, and there's no spookiness, there's no witchcraft, there's nothing crazy like that. This is really looking from a neurological scientific perspective, and I think that's what I really appreciate, is that core perspective of being able to help in a way that's deeper without the necessary use of medication. Now, if my doctor prescribes medication, I'll take it. But
Right.
there was no medication to fix my head where I was at. That wasn't an option. I only saw one option, and it was the end of my life. And it was because of you that I'm here today. So I am extraordinarily grateful. I know that you can help people, and that you have done for such a long time. Um, I can see that if you were given an opportunity to come and talk to a large workforce in a town hall, if you can just change one person how they think just for that moment, then you can create the ripple effect, and it happens for lots of people. So it's very exciting, Charity. It's very exciting to see where things go. And I was talking to Charity last week about a few of the sessions she's got coming up. You've got 1 week events where you're going to be taking groups of people to different locations. You've got that. What was the name of that resort in Utah that you talked about on the mountains?
It's in Park City. No, I
Park
can't think
City.
of what it's called. It's at the top. It's at the very top of the mountain, and it
Wow.
is beautiful. Park
So
City is
you can take
beautiful.
people there and
Yes,
then you'll spend a week with them and you'll work with them, whether it be in a small group. And people can book this with you. They
yes,
can book all year round.
yes. They can book all year round. Park City though during the winter is a ski resort. So, if you like to ski, you can do that. Um, I'm not a skier. All the rest of my family is, all my children.
Mm.
Um, so a lot of people do choose to do that. Summertime is beautiful up there because you're up in the mountains.
Oh,
Um,
peaceful.
but we also have, I mean, I live in Utah and it is beautiful. Like we have Park City, but then we also have Moab, which is down in the desert, and it is gorgeous.
And you
So
travel as well?
yes,
You can
I
travel to
so
clients?
there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can do it either here at a resort, or if you want me to come to your business, your office, we can do it that way. Whatever way is the easiest. Or we can do it just over Zoom. Some of my clients, we get on Zoom and we do bi-weekly sessions. It really is, we can customize it to whatever it is you want. Whether you want, just to start on a small level and help, your whole business on a small level, or if you really want to go in depth. I will say that people generally start, they're a little bit curious, a little hesitant. Oh, we'll just start here, but they always go deep, always.
Yeah.
Because once you get started, you want to go to the next layer because you just feel good and you feel free and you feel peace. And I would say that's the biggest thing, like having,
What's your
you
peace
know,
worth? What does
right,
it mean to you?
exactly. I
Mm.
mean, when I very first went to my very first course, there was this lady there and she said, we should be screaming this from the corners of every street. And I was like, this lady is crazy. But now I know what she means. Like, I guarantee, Trisha, if I asked you, tell me three of your friends or three people that you know who could use some help,
Oh,
you
easy.
you can always think of somebody. Like they're everywhere. People really need help. And like your story to me, it's why I love what I do. But when you start on a small level or a small scale, and you can work to bigger, and what we do can build, it builds, Trisha. So if you want to start on a smaller level, just maybe it's monthly session
Yeah.
with all of your team on
Start
Zoom.
with
We
what
can
you're
do that.
comfortable.
Yep.
Start with
If
what you're
you want
comfortable.
me to come in and you're like, nope, I'm ready for things to shift and to change and to give my team and my employees, the best advantage and help them to be in a better place, emotionally, physically, and mentally, then have me come in for 3 days. Like we can do whatever. Some people just like, as the business owner, like to work just one-on-one, and then they will add in their employees later.
Mm. So just stage it as it's needed for the company. If you're watching this video and you're wondering whether or not, if you've got this far, I know that you should be doing it because you found something in it that's really resonates with you. But if you are wanting to get in contact with Charity, she has a website. Would you like to share your address?
My website is just cherrystilson.com.
Easy,
So,
so
yep,
easy.
it's easy.
And you're about to release a book shortly as well, which will
Yes,
be a nice little handbook for people just to pick up and read. It's a quick read.
yep. And it will have simple little tips. It will be, even if you just pick up the book and you incorporate those things, you'll be in a better place.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to cover today, Charity?
Um, I would just say if anything that Trish and I've discussed kind of piques your interest, like reach out to me, and if you need to set up just a quick 10-minute call to see if we were a good fit, I'm great with that. If it's not, it's not. I'm not offended, Trisha. Like it's either for you or it's not. But I will
Yeah.
say that in all of my years, I everybody always comes back. Or if they don't come back, I'll find them on the street, or they'll see them and they'll say, remember you saw me? And some of them I don't remember because it's been so long. And they're like, yeah, I never had that issue again. They didn't need to come back.
Yeah.
So that would have been
And
more for a physical thing, but
confidentiality is guaranteed. There's
oh yes,
I think that's why you've kept everything very quiet up until now. You don't share people's personal details
no,
or case studies unless they ask to be interviewed.
yes, yes, yeah, no, it's a very confidential, private thing, you know, unless there's some people who are like, I don't care who you tell them whatever because everybody needs to come.
Yeah.
So
Some people love that. No, thank you, Charity. Thank you so much for your time today. I'll share this video on my channel and you can share it on your channel as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are watching it right now thinking, oh, I must at least investigate and see whether or not I can try this for myself. My personal 5-star recommendation is give it a go, at least have one session, get the body scan done, which is an electronic machine that Charity will use to have an evaluation, and do a couple of small activities. It's not invasive. There's um, no medications or anything. It's really just understanding the mind and helping you press the reset button. So help yourself by getting in contact with Charity and having a chat to her and seeing what you can do.
thank you, Trisha. Thanks for having me.
No worries. The end. Finish.